Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Fremgen. I have some shocking news for you today. This is something I've been aware of for a couple of years now, but when I really started to look at it, well, it's way worse than I thought. You see, the comic book industry is basically dead. And what I mean by that is DC and Marvel's main business isn't selling comic books. And I don't mean their main business is movies or whatever. That's Disney and Warner Brothers. I'm talking about DC and Marvel, the publishers. Their main business isn't selling comic books. Their main business is selling variant covers. Now granted, they are still selling comic books, but to a great extent, that's not what the customers are buying. The bulk of their customers are buying variant covers, not the comic books themselves. If you're having trouble understanding what I'm talking about, think about baseball cards. Originally, baseball cards were a marketing gimmick, used to help sell candy, cigarettes, or even sporting equipment. But over the years, they discovered people were basically buying the baseball cards and not the candy. And in 1991, companies like Topps stopped selling the gum altogether and just sold the cards. That's when they went from candy company to trading card company. And to a lesser degree, at least for now, that's what's happening in the comic book industry. Actual comic book sales make up like less than a third of all their monthly sales. Let me break down the numbers. It's pretty damn crazy. But first, I have to explain what a SKU is. SKU stands for Stock Keeping Unit, as in a number for a specific item stocked in a store. Like, say, a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. That's one SKU. You can have 50 boxes in your store, but it's all still one SKU. But then if you have Honey Nut Cheerios with more crack, well, that would be a different SKU. So Action Comics number 900 is one SKU, and Action Comics number 900 with variant cover A is a different SKU. Each variant cover gets its own SKU. This is how comic book shops clarify their orders with the publisher or distributor. Now, in a random month, Marvel makes about 71 comic books, and DC makes about 54. They recently cut down their numbers. These are the actual titles with individual stories inside them. Now, how many total SKUs do they make a month? Well, DC does about 244, and Marvel does about 250 SKUs a month. They sell more than 3 times the SKUs than individual titles each month. To use the baseball card analogy again, it's like they sell 10 pieces of gum and 35 to 45 baseball cards a month. So which business would you say they're in? The comic book business or the variant cover business? This all started around 2008 and grew stronger and stronger until about 2013. That's when DC and Marvel started to produce more than twice the number of covers per comic book, meaning something like 80 different titles and 160 different SKUs. And the trend keeps increasing today. And it even happens with smaller publishers. One month, IDW published 26 SKUs off of 5 comic books. Now you may say, wait a minute, Tom, how can you call this two different things? SKUs aside. You know, because you talk like that. Maybe people are just getting comic books with the covers they like on them. Well, 2 things make me believe that that is not happening. 1, price. You see, oftentimes for comic book stores to get variant covers, they need to buy multiple issues of the standard cover. Something like every 5 or 10 issues of X-Men will get you 1 variant cover. This ranges all over and depends. But then the comic book store doesn't sell the variant at list price. It instantly marks it up. So the buyers of the variants are often paying a premium for the cover alone. So they want the cover, not the comic book. And second, volume. A few years back, DC had 2 big-name writers take over their 2 best books. Brian Michael Bendis, Marvel's top writer moving over to DC, took over the Superman comics, and Scott Snyder, fresh off his star-making run on Batman, took over the Justice League. Bendis' first issue, Man of Steel #1 had no variant covers, because that's how he wanted it. It sold around 100,000 copies. Scott Snyder's Justice League #1 had 6 variant covers and 25 exclusive covers. Covers for special distributors and stores. And it sold around 300,000 copies. If readers were just grabbing the covers they like, there wouldn't be a 200,000 discrepancy between Bendis and Snyder. So, DC is selling covers, not comic books. Why and how does this all work? Well, it's pretty much just like the 1990s. Speculators. You see, these variant covers are rare, air quotes. And aside from content, the #1 thing that makes an old comic book valuable is its rarity. So sure, there are 300,000 copies of Scott Snyder's Justice League #1 out there, but only 5,000 of them have this cover. And the latest crack for old comic book valuations is character introductions. When Disney or Warner Brothers announces a character showing up in a new movie or TV show, the speculators race over to their local comic shops, or quickly jump on eBay, and try to get as many introductory issues of that character they can before the sellers realize what's happening. I've had several comic book sellers tell me they need to be on guard for this, as a measly $10 issue can jump to $150 in the blink of an eye. And these are the same speculators who line up for the variant covers. A store owner told me it didn't even matter who drew the variant cover. It sold at a marked up price just because it was rare. And to a reader like myself, that's just crazy. Now, why hasn't this all collapsed like in the 1990s? Well, my best guess is the rarity angle and that the publishers are in on it. The publishers are purposely making rare issues and charging a premium for them through their extra sales. The speculators win because they're getting rare issues. Back in the 1990s, the gimmick covers and the #1 issues weren't rare. So they never went up in price because everyone had one. Not true today. Also, it's kind of a win for the comic book stores too. While they have to deal with the headache of ordering over 500 SKUs a month, the variant covers sell, and the extra issues they had to buy are now treated like free stock. If they don't sell, oh well, and if they do, free money. The one thing I'm unsure about, though, is who's the second buyer? The speculators buy the rare variant covers hoping to flip them for more money. And obviously they do, or else things would collapse like the 1990s. So who's buying them? I'm inclined to think that they're selling them to each other. And noobs hoping to get in on the action. Much like the fine art world. Honestly, I have a BFA, and not a lot of fine art is actually worthwhile art. It's just one rich person selling it to another with a vague agreement in the community that another rich person will pay more money for it later. So speculators are selling to speculators. And as long as the money is there to keep it rolling, meaning not a lot of speculators are getting burnt by variants they can't sell, it shall keep rolling. This reality also props up the speculator mentality, if I may. As many people on YouTube are making videos and whatnot about the newest value-increasing books, they whip everyone up into a frenzy of, hey, you gotta get this book now. And then it often turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy. I told you this book was selling, and now you're all buying it, so I was right. It's selling. As a comic book reader, though, I hate all this. I just want people to enjoy reading the comic books, but that population is quite small now. And this also creates another problem for us readers and possible future readers. The comic book publishers don't really care about us. And overall, they really don't make anything anybody wants to read. This is why graphic novels published outside the comic industry are kicking butt on all the sales charts. Now, on some level, they do care. But instead of investing in growing readership, it's easier for them to massage and grow the speculator market. Because currently, that's where the money is. Why pay for a new writer, penciler, inker, letterer, and colorist to get a new comic book when you can just pay one artist and get a new variant cover. This also leads to them creating new branded characters. A new Captain America, a new Spider-Boy, a new Superman. This is all fuel for the speculator market. Not to mention nice bonus checks for the creators. If Disney or Warner Brothers does something with their new branded characters, note they're more likely to use a new branded character like Blue Beetle or Ms. Marvel than a completely new character. So for publishers and creators, this is a win-win situation. But while variant covers are basically a win for the publishers, the speculators, and the stores, it's kind of a loss for the readers. And heaven forbid the speculators ever go away, because the fall will be bigger than the one in the 90s. Because back then, there was still a large group of readers. Not so much today. But usually things have a way of just muddling through, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen here. Some speculators and readers will always hang on. All right, I'll get off my soapbox now. What do you think about all this? Do you love the excitement of the speculator market? Or would you rather see readership take control of the industry again? Either way, thanks for spending time with me. And if you could be so kind to like, comment, notify, share, subscribe, and dance around your living room in a chicken costume, wait, no.